What's going on, car guys and car gals? This is Lou Ramirez, the car guy.
And this is Fred Lenartz, the Subprime hero.
And we are excited to be brewing solutions with you on the Car Guy Coffee Podcast. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you got a nice, fresh cup of solutions all brewed up and ready to have some fun. And we're going to be talking about some great stuff. We got an incredible guest that we can't wait for you to get you some of. Fred, how excited is this going to be today?
Man, I'm more than excited. This guest is just astronomical. That's the word I'm looking for right there.
Talk, and we were like, we're not even live yet.
Yeah, well, it was a great energy already coming from her. She's all the way on the West Coast, and she's already up right now, just spitting game. And the game that she was spitting was just right up our alley. She speaks our language. She knows exactly what's going on. She's been doing this for a long time, and she has a lot of knowledge to share with y'all today. Let's hear her story. I can't wait.
Cannot wait for it. So do what it is that you need to do and tag a car guy, tag a car gal, and let's get ready to brew some solutions. Enjoy this message from our partners who are trying to make sure that you know how to upshift and uplift your business by brewing solutions with the Car Guy Coffee Podcast. So car guys and car gals, now that you know that it is time to be brewing some real solutions, and you've already shared, you've already tagged a car guy and tagged a car gal, let's get ready to get some things exciting about the power that happens when we make the right connections, when we really look at what it is that we're actually saying to the people that we're trying to get our product to, with the incredible, the one,
the only,
Miss
Elise Kephart.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Wow, we're so thankful to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still kind of giggling that I went off on some passion talk there before, and you're like, oh, we got to go live. I'm all, oh, dang, we're not live. So
he was dropping nuggets for everybody, these gems, and it was really beautiful, actually. So I
can get passionate. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
We appreciate it
for the passion.
That's why we have you here. You know, like I said, I told you when we first talked, I've been following you for a while. I've been seeing what you're doing. You're connected to some amazing people, and so many people just love what your aura and your energy is about. And when you talk and you share and you do these things and you break down what you do and what your passions are, people just listen. Yep. And it's something about what you have. It's honest. It's integrity. It's everything that people are looking for today in this world. Real. They don't want fake. So at least you are the realest. And I appreciate you for being here this morning. It's awesome.
Thank you. With that said, this is I'm wearing sweatpants on the bottom still because it's about 5:30. But no, thank you.
I got some sweatpants on right now too. I got, I'm a suit. I wear a lot of suits and stuff like that. But when I do these shows, I like to be comfortable. So I'm wearing some Adidas sweatpants right now. I got.
Heck yeah.
I mean, shoot, I'll even show you.
Where did you guys get those shirts? I want to.
carguycoffee.com.
But you can definitely.
You're gonna get an.
All you have to do is give me your shirt size in an address, and you'll get some of that stuff anyway. Because you're a special guest.
For sure. That's right up my alley. I like those. Cool.
Awesome. Well, there's a lot of inspiration shirts, as we call these. So we have a few of these. We got this one, the Keep Growing shirt. We have a few, and we'll send you a big old gaggle of stuff and make sure that you're happy. And swag pack. Yeah. So we appreciate it and thank you. And matter of fact, speaking of the Forgive, Focus, Fly, let's break into that.
We need to go ahead and make sure that we establish what it is that this is all about. Car guys, car gals, and all you solutionaries out there. There is so much power that can be used when you intentionally wipe off the weight of unforgiveness and your hands are freed up to focus on what it is that you need to go after and achieve. And then you have the freedom to fly. And so we are excited to keep growing while we do that. So Elise Kephart, join us as we apply these 3 F's so that we can keep growing. Go ahead and put your hands on your shoulders one time. Here we go. On 3, we're going to wipe off the weight of unforgiveness. We're going to focus and we're going to fly. 1, 2, 3. Forgive.
All right.
Focus. Fly. And keep growing. Keep growing. Yeah. Yes. So now that we are officially begun. Thank you. Oh, here we go. He's gonna get it going. You got to see how much dancing we do when we don't have the camera on us. You think the quick brews is a lot of dancing? We are always dancing up inside of this cafe. And we're just pumped up that we have somebody else in here.
Did you see my robot yesterday?
I did see your robot.
Oh man,
I broke down the robot yesterday during my quick. I'm running out of ideas. People say do a dance. I'm like, I try to do different dances every time, and eventually I'm like, here I am.
No, I was talking about I don't like, I've never taken dance class. I was talking about dancing, and you know what happened next? I got targeted for virtual dance lessons, like to Justin Bieber songs on my Facebook. I'm like, what is this?
Wow.
Because I have this mirror. I have this mirror that I haven't like hung up, and it's a big mirror, so it's just in my garage, but it's almost like such a full-size mirror. I was like, this literally could work, like, because you can see a lot.
Yeah, get those steps going. I know my wife, she was like, literally the other day, this is probably, I don't know if I told you about this, Lou, but she was like, I want to be a hip hop dancer. I was like, okay, babe, what do you mean? And then so she was like watching, probably like America's Best Dance Crew or something to that nature, some old show that we watched before. And she was over here doing like all these little dance moves. She's like, I just want to be like a hip hop dancer. I'm like, okay, babe, I love you so much. It's the cutest thing in the world to watch my wife try to hip hop dance. And don't get me wrong, she can move, but it's cute. It's I love it. So
I've always, it's crazy. I obviously, like, I'm a huge Justin Timberlake fan, but I've always found fascination with just artistry in general, when you can be multi-talented or to the degree of for that up that avenue, you were able to dance, sing, breath control, memorize lyrics, like all this stuff in a similar fashion with whatever we're doing. Like, there's a skill set to each little thing, right? Absolutely. And it's not something like, oh, a week of training, I got it. Like, it's constant. If you really want to be the best version of whatever it is that you're doing, personal or professional or whatever.
I love that. A lot of us have natural ability, but even the people with natural ability have to put the work in. And in order to be elite, to be the top notch, because it takes consistent work. And you mentioned that word earlier today, and I love that word, consistency. That is a big part of my vocabulary. It's a big part of my process. And I love that you brought that up earlier too, because it is exactly one of the best recipes to have for anybody. If you are a consistent person, even if you're consistently bad, at least we know how to fix it, right? You got to be consistent with stuff, Whatever
the recipe, it has to be consistent.
Fact.
So the way to tell that the recipe is off is based off of the consistency that the recipe usually has, right? If this is constantly what the Coca-Cola tastes like, and then it's off, oh man, that's not Coca-Cola that's messed up. The conditions for this one are off, right? The consistency of the product and everything. And that is why it's so important that we have people like you that are helping primer people and get them ready to have different layers of consistency used when they present themselves to their customer. Damn. So being that we're in the sales world, right? That's something that we used to think that was just a person, that was an innate thing, right? Like it's not like a songwriter, like Justin Justin can do all those things, right?
Who doesn't love JT?
But he can
my dude.
He can write the songs too. That's a certain talent,
Yeah.
Not everybody is able to come up with the script, but everybody is able to learn the script. So sales is a skill, and if it is a skill, it can be taught, and you specialize inside of that. And that's why we want to grind up this 5-liner and get things brewing with you, because you are finding a way to help make sure that people capitalize on every single conversation that they have, right? Otherwise, why are we having the conversation? Right?
Brownie points, as I call it.
Right? Yes, you do.
Yeah, brownie points where, yay for you for making X amount of calls or completing all your tasks, but you really want to look at what results am I getting with everything, not just the phone calls, not just the email, but everything. If I'm going to hit click, one little click or one little tap or one little like tap of any energy that I'm going to exert, I want it to be probable that I'm doing it for a reason, an expected result. Right? If you do this long enough, then then it's either this, I'm doing this just to clear off my task and so I don't get in trouble, or every time I do this, like, oh yes, it actually works, right? If we sort of think about how the front of the house works when you're selling a car out on the front of the showroom, right? And a salesperson, especially green pea, like we know, oh yes, you close the deal for the first time, right? And then you do it again and you're like, damn, that was kind of like the same thing. The customer sort of said like the same sort of stuff, right? To a certain degree, gave similar objections. And you learn your groove, right? You learn what you eventually learn that when a customer says, oh, honey, we got to think about it out on the floor. Like, you don't just go like, okay, like you have a probable response that's just almost like muscle memory, right? That sort of comes out. And whether that's on the phone, which is the most difficult thing for customers to, like, they don't, with the way that smartphones are now, people need to realize, and I don't know why our industry doesn't talk about this. They still go into this Wolf of Wall Street, hey, make 150 dials if you're a BDC rep. But bro, like, you can call one, I'll put it on a very like extreme level. If one customer, let's say just one lead, and you call them from any cell phone number, like you could set any Google, you can call them from any number 100 times in one day. If they have that one silence unknown feature on, like, their phone is never going to ring. Yeah. So you need to know, it's kind of like this so everybody goes, oh, well, we text anyway. That's normally the next thing that people bring up. Well, we text message. And it's that realization of, do you use text message for brownie points? Like, you get the engagement, yay, the brownie point, or are you using it to close, right? And what I started to realize is, from a probable and psychology standpoint, text is great to get the initial response. It's the most instinctual thing for a customer to do. But anything I do in sales needs to be my customer's idea, right? So it's almost like, before I even sell the appointment, I need to have a modern day person in 2021 want to talk to me on the phone from a text message, because instinctually they don't. That's why they didn't pick up your phone call just now, right? There's even memes I see on like these younger Instagram sometimes that I follow, but it's funny because they're like, it's like these funny memes where it's like, no, don't call me. Like if you call somebody, it's awkward for them almost nowadays, right? So and so it's almost, but from a psychology standpoint, from a closing standpoint, if I took the same scenario, right, of a similar customer, I got to look at, do I have higher probability of getting what I want or closing the deal on a phone call or over text? I can even look at that. Like, we know, if I were to ask any salesperson, hey, do you have a higher close rate when the customer's in the showroom in front of you, or would you rather like close the deal over text? Most of them, no, I want them in the showroom, right? Like, it's the same concept. If I want to sell in a test drive, oh, I'm not there. Like, all these things that come up with the trust between the trust wall between the consumer and the dealer. It's almost this transformation of, you need to, so much of where you need to start now is like, almost even text messaging is a gift. Sometimes you start before that, where you don't even have a phone number to text, right? And then sometimes you even start before that, where you not only just have an email, but you don't even have their real name, right? It's like, no, what's their first name? You're all, no, last name. Oh, no name. Okay. No name. No name, right? And sometimes you see some not nice, some inappropriate ones. I don't like, but sure. But you got to realize, we can kind of joke about it, but you have, the Super Bowl commercial that painted our industry so lovely. Yeah. That is what is still, you saw it on Super Bowl. Like, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I specifically saw that commercial, and I was just like, there you go. No, it's no wonder that, let me get this straight. A customer willingly just took their fingertips, like, creeped on the internet, found our website, creeped on cars, clicked the button, filled out their form. You know what? Better yet, they filled out a credit app. You would think that like since they gave their blood type and everything and spent all that time, that when you call them, they're going to pick up. And it's like, what? So it's this trust wall that I'm realizing exists no matter what the scenario is, of before I'm even going to ask for a date, I got to get that wall to drop. Right. And realizing how to do that has kind of been has been interesting, especially through text message. Right. I have a thing that I always do, very similar to how professional athletes get better at their skill set. They don't want to. It's grudgingly work. Like it's something that they, in their head, they're like, no, I don't need to do this. But the way that they rewind the tape, right, on everything they do.
Yes.
They rewind the tape. Well, what do you mean by that? It doesn't have to be a phone call. I'm talking about everything, a text message. If I go, gosh, why did the customer say that? Well, rewind the tape. What did you say before that? What did you text before that for them to respond? Right. Those are the pattern habits that you want to look at, that I've sort of fine-tuned to where it says, all right, probability says if I word it with this similar type of way, then these are going to be the results. You know, that's always something that I'm doing. I'm thinking of if I ask a question, because we know, okay, if a higher probability to get a response is to ask a question. Well, take it to the next level. If you're going to ask a question, make sure you got your game plan planned out. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to ask this question and, ooh, God, I hope the customer doesn't answer that way, then don't reword your question, right? You just put yourself in your own corner, and if you rewind the tape in that aspect, not just with phone calls, but with texts, then you start to realize consistency, pattern habits, to the point now where whether it's just so it's this cool thing for me, but all the different avenues of internet sales follow-up or BDC, whether it's email responses, email only customers, no name customers, text messages, I'm able to pull screenshots of like daily. That should be the method. If anything, back of the house of that we're going to teach or tell our people to do. The biggest thing, and I know this just being started getting in the car business, like some training a lot of times doesn't click with salespeople, because it's like learning algorithms, trigonometry in high school. You're like, why do I need to know this, right? Like, is this really gonna work? So when they see the proof in the pudding, that's the biggest thing that clicks with most people, right? So if I'm going to be teaching, all right, here's a class, here's how you take a customer, you know, here's what you do with an email only customer. Again, I don't want to just be teaching the activities that you do and the task clearances, but I almost wish somebody would just raise their hand in class anytime this happens. Anytime they're learning, can you show me an example? Well, yeah, let me show you an example of Sally and Billy. No, like show me an example of a real customer. Oh, okay, let me scroll back to the beginning of last month. No, like from yesterday, like from today. Because if something really works back of the house, email only customers, anything email, anything text, that's all screenshotable and provable, right? Phone calls, provable. And you're not just looking for the proof in the pudding, but can you pull a real example from yesterday? Because
that's you are wealth of knowledge, girl. You are obviously an all-star at what you do. You're always evolving, and I could tell. And 2020 was a great year to be able to learn, educate, get some statistics, get your probabilities together, get everything figured out to where you can master it to the best of your ability, right?
Well, I'm even for my, with 2020 for me, the beginning part of it, especially when the everything shut down, I had my Zoom trainings were ranging anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes max, because that's normally like the attention span that you can do even on like lots of like soup. So in that time, part of what makes me different as a trainer is I'm mirroring myself constantly as an agent, right? Or as like the assistant to a salesperson, so I'm constantly doing the things that I teach, right? Not just teaching it, but let's go dive into your CRM. So when COVID hit and everything shut down, and my sessions now go from like a full day, like in store, to these like 20-minute increments or 40-minute increments, it's like, okay, I'm not going to look dumb, right? So anything I teach, I got to be able to prove. And what I started to realize, I started to tick mark, okay, less and less people, even with the really slick, like Google Voice tool type thing that I have where I can swap out my phone numbers, right? I was starting to tick mark it. And within I needed to find I needed to dive into, okay, if less people are picking up their phone blindly, even with an insane tool like this, where I can change my area code 3 times over, then, and the common trend, tick market, is that customers are replying first over a digital format, right? If it's only an email only or text, then I started to think, okay, how do I, in a short period of time, not just say, okay, great, we're going to send this email and let's go to the next customer. But my mindset was, okay, so that I don't look dumb, if I'm on a 40-minute session, I want to be able to get one live customer on the phone, like doing blind dials, and be able to get one engagement that alley-oops me to a phone call within 40 minutes. Right. So it's not like, oh yeah, I got the heartbeat with it. I got a heartbeat. It's like, no, that's cute. Like getting a customer to respond to your text, again, that's great for you, but is it getting you the result? And most people sort of have this rush to the text, to the appointment, which isn't a bad method, because obviously there's screenshot after screenshot where it's like, yes, the appointment was set over text, right, or over email. But I always look at timestamps too. I can probably, if you gave me 1,000 text messages to read, not that I've read over 1,000 text messages, maybe I have, but where the appointment was set, I can look at those timestamps to tally mark them out, right? And then I would be able to say, if that same thing, that same scenario was on a phone call, your time would be fractioned in a fourth of that, right? And you would have gotten the same result. If I rewind that or reverse it, I could take 100 phone calls where the appointment was set, and I'll be like, yay, that wasn't over a text message, because we'd still be waiting on something, right?
You seriously, you are bringing this, girl. And here's the thing, folks, I know you all hearing this, and I know that you guys are learning some stuff. I hope you're taking some notes, because she's dropping a wealth of knowledge, and it's for free, right? So I absolutely love this. And, this is what's so great. We got you on the show. I know that you're about all this stuff, and I'm excited about the information you have. And obviously you have a wealth of it. And that's something that I'm definitely so glad we're connecting, because the more that I can become friends with you, the more I'm going to learn from how you do, because that's totally right up, not up my alley. I'm not the best at that stuff, and I definitely can learn something from you, and you're doing a great job. You have broke it down to a science, folks. And that science works.
Somebody, a salesperson, I was in Texas a couple weeks ago, and they go, so many of us have seen like Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio and everything. Sure. So no, and he goes, have you studied Jordan Belfort before? And I go, I've never studied him. I know who he is from the movie. Sure. And he goes, what you teach and the way you do reminds me of the way that reminds me of his straight line program, because it's very analytical in the same way, right? There's the way it's not just like, hey, say that, but it's like you show the reasoning behind, and you're able to prove results consistently. And it's so then I went on this little rabbit hole, and I started to creep a little bit on some of Jordan Belfort's like free videos of his of him training, right? Older videos. But he brings up an interesting thing in one of them that I found, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is kind of true. Before I guess he teaches his class, he says, what I'm going to teach you, when it resonates, when you get it, it's almost a dangerous power, and you have to commit that you're going to use this power with integrity. Right. Yeah. Because then I started to realize, I was like, wow, this is a little bit of a power, but I do have my, don't get it mixed. I do have my, it's not just like go crazy on every customer, right? I have 10 things, for example, that if a customer brings up to me, it's like my Achilles heel. I call it my magic 10. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to argue with that. It's not going to be in benefit to the dealer or to me, right? Especially with 2020 times, right? If I'm taught as a BDC rep, just get them in, and a customer says, I have an underlying condition and I want to do everything over the internet before I come down. But they live like 5 minutes away, and a BDC rep says, well, our policy is you got to come down. You're done. Right? So not worth arguing about. So there's things that, it's not, I don't have this mindset, get an appointment every time. In fact, I've analyzed 10 things that there's just no debate. You ask anybody in the car business, they go, yeah, that's a non-negotiable. If that happens on the phone, probability is you're not going to be able to argue about it. It's not a lost opportunity, but you put the customer almost like in this next follow-up plan, right? This like what we're going to do next. And then you start to realize when you go to follow up with them again, like they don't pick up their phone like they were supposed to. Right. Or respond to your text like they were supposed to. And it's this chase game. So I kind of have this my own funny terms, but I call it VIP tickets down Chase Lane. Like, what does that mean? It means the moment that you disconnect the phone, even if it's something as simple as, oh, can you call back at work? I'm at work. Can you call back after 5 when I'm off? It's like, rewind the tape. I don't know about you, but when I'm at work and my phone rings, there's a red and green button. It's the same amount of effort, right? To pick up either one of them. So same thing with driving. So it's kind of like you got to ask yourself, is that a defense mechanism? Because why would someone logically pick up their phone?
Yeah.
They didn't have to. It's like, if you were in the bathroom, why did you pick up your phone? So it's a defense mechanism. And once you learn how to get like how to get through that, right? But it's almost like the same way back in the day when I first took an up, or before, when I was first taking ups, I was practicing my meet and greet, right? Out on the pad with all sales dudes, right? I'm like 22 in the car business from Starbucks, working with all females, and now I'm in the car business and they're like, all right, at least let's practice your greeting, and everybody's smoking cigarettes on the pad, and I I go, hi, welcome to Heller Ford, how can I help you today? Right? Like, so, and they go, no, if you say that, they're gonna go, oh, I'm just kicking tires. So it's almost like you think of that type of mentality, and it's like, yeah, why would a customer drive on the 405 freeway, like all the way down here, down the 5, sit in traffic, make a right turn, like do all that, and then just to kick tires? It's the same. Why would a customer, like, you can creep for free on Instagram now, on Pinterest, on YouTube, like on Google. There's so much articles, like so much stuff out there, and you never have to fill out the box that says, hey, fill out your information.
That's
not
it.
Back, by the way, accept the terms, like, we're going to contact you. Like, are you sure? Are you sure? And yet you get them on the phone. Oh, we're just kicking tires. Oh, we're just doing research. Oh, we're not there yet. Oh, so you got to know. I started to realize, okay, rather than argue and put them in the circle back bucket and then fail anyways, I got the brownie points for all the right follow-up.
Right.
But really what should have happened is, especially because that follow-up a lot of times either leads to more ghosting, or you finally do get a hold of them. It's like, oh, you did? Oh, what did you buy? Congratulations. And you're like, wait, what did I do wrong? I'm OCD, but I'm like, this is the stuff I did everything right that I was taught, right? I started to, but they, and you're like, oh, that customer, he lied to me, or she lied to me. The buyers are liars. They said, they told me to follow up, and then, so you got it. The reason what happened there is an Elise Timberlake swooped in, right? Got through the defense mechanisms, set the appointment, and then sold the car. So by the time you dive in, like a week later, like you're supposed to, somebody already swooped in. So you have to start to look at that, because a lot of times that, oh, not a problem, let's reconnect, your time, right? Ideally, my whole method now is for fresh internet leads, customers that mentally made the decision to take their fingertips and fill out whatever they filled out. As much as I want to believe that I was just doing research, rather than argue with them about it, I have just a solution for them, right? I'm on their level with everything that I do. I've sort of almost Camille'd myself, or Camille, what's that, like mirror? You learn to figure out what customers' defense mechanisms are, what their psychology is, a lot of things that they say. And then in my texts and my emails, everything that I'm saying is because, if I can give a reward, thanks to all the customers out there, like, I'm mirroring what customers have told me. Kelly Blue Book's a perfect one, or a trade. So many people go, hey, their pitch is like in an email, hey, we'd love to buy your car. Your offer expires in 72 hours. Like, when did you want to come in and schedule an appointment? And the customer, you got to realize, do you think they're like, yes, babe, 72 hours, it expires. Oh my gosh, we got to hurry down. No, they're like, that was ridiculous. I'm offended. I don't even want to hear from you. Like, you got to be on that level. Yes. Versus like, hey, come on down, when they're upset at you because so if you go into it like, hey, you probably saw the certificate can be automated, right? And they're finally like, oh, dang, somebody on my level. It's that kind of mindset that you want to do, rather than just invite them over for test drives, ask them if you've test driven it. Yes. Like, that mentality is almost like you're trying to sell the car through an email. And it's not going to be in your best. It's not to say that it's impossible. And it's not to say that there aren't certain circumstances where I do everything over the phone or email. Long out of state, long distance is a good example. I call the shots. I have it down now. This was something that I did for the first time a couple weeks ago in San Diego. I go into a store. I'm rotating amongst like 4 rooftops, and I go into a store with, and I work with sometimes BDCs, and I work sometimes with salespeople, like internet salespeople, right? That are on the floor, but then they also take leads. So I had transitioned. I'm working well with salespeople, which to a certain degree is a little bit different breed than BDC, because they have 2 different skill sets out on the floor, right? And they got to sort of get this back into the house stuff done. And so before I went into this store, and before I even took a phone call, I wrote something down in an envelope, I sealed it up, and I put it on the whiteboard, right? And I said, the everything that's going to happen is in this envelope, right? Like, I'm going to make calls right now, and I'm going to get a customer on the phone in less than 3 minutes. That's one of the things written in the envelope. But once that customer picks up, everything that's going to happen on that call, and it's sealed, is going to be written in this envelope, right?
Oh, wow.
It's just like a magic trick, like, boop. Sure enough, it went exactly as planned. It was like 2 minutes and like 47 seconds, like down to the amount of dials, right? It was like that it would take for the customer to pick up. And how do I know that? Through just super OCD, like tick marks, to be able to almost play it like a poker game.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's fun though, because it is kind of like a superpower, but I have so much fun with it because it's, once I sort of got confident in my own skin a little bit, really started to realize, okay, I don't have to follow anybody else's manual anymore, right? Like, if I can memorize, it's not to say that it's a bad manual, but that's a script, and I want to look at that script and really, or whatever I'm doing, and is it getting me what I want, or is it just more of the, like, the activity? Because that's right. What sometimes you go into BDCs or and it's just like you see them and they're just like not, it's like they're just almost miserable. Why? Because they know that the next thing they do is going to get them no result. But when you win, even if it's just like a little win, right? Even like I love when reps send me like screenshots and they're like, oh my gosh, this customer, like this email only customer responded to like what you told me, or this one of the reps that I work with, she was the first one that I've had in a while from like a no-namer, right? Like one of the no-namers, email only, all the way through like proof in the pudding, like to the sale. So
that's awesome.
It keeps me selfishly as I train. If I a dealer asked me a couple weeks ago, they're like, well, are you ever gonna hire a trainer? Like, are we always gonna be able to have you? And I said, that question's come up a couple times, but I can share with you this right now on a personal level. I don't want to get out of the game. Like when COVID hit, and then I wasn't like in store, like that was so strange for me at first, right? Like my whole was like, what is, and when I did my first in store, it was out in Texas, because they didn't, their guidelines were, but I went out to Texas, I think it was in June of 2020, and it was the first travel that I had done since like the first week of March, like right before like March, right? And I remember going, oh my gosh, I haven't like done I haven't mirrored myself in long sessions as Elise Timberlake in a hot minute here. And I was a little nervous. I was like, it's like you haven't been practicing your free throws quite as consistently. So my nerdy ass self, what I did was I actually drove out to Texas, because I had a condo out there that I was packing up too. And on my drive there, a lot of calls that I download, you just pop into my iTunes. So I just put like my whole playlist, right? 22 hours one way to Texas from California, in case you're curious. And then occasionally when a call would come up, I would just listen to it. And it was kind of this funny thing, because it would go from like the Biebs or like Justin Bieber to like this call that was like, whether it was recent or, I mean, there's calls archived back in my iTunes from like the very beginning, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is what I sounded like back then, right? So being able to even see it, with anything that you do in this business, you shouldn't flatline. You should constantly be rewinding the tape, not just for a fight. I don't know. I'm a big believer of just personal growth development, like especially in 2020, it sort of put me at this core of dependency on, your happiness is in your control 100%. The challenge though is like with nobody puts us in the book of life, but like you almost realize that whether it's entrepreneurship, for example, a lot of times can be painted as this like this great thing. Like people go, wow, how does it feel like not to be like, do you like what you do more than like retail because you don't got to work the long hours? And I'm like, what? like it's kind of like car business, like give me my like all the bell shifts, right? But there's things, and that like there's things in everything that you do where it's like you just don't want to do it. But when you sort of build that skill set, and this is kind of going into mental fitness where you can rewire your brain to like where when things get difficult, but it's almost like your brain just muscle memory can pick up and go. Like that's been a really big thing. The 75 hard challenge that was something that I completed last year, and that changed my mindset so much as far as just the reason that a lot of things fail is because like we check ourselves out without it instinctually, just as humans. Like it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. But that progression, right? When you rewatch, it's like the whole David Goggins thing too. Like it's not up everybody's alley, but I dig that kind of stuff.
And I do, and that's why we love having you here, and that actually breaks us right into. We want to hit you with this 5-liner, and there's 5 questions I want to ask you really quickly, and these 5 questions are instrumental in explaining why you are who you are today, how you got to where you are today, and oh my God, I mean, you really, Lou and I need to sit down and just have a session with you that's just straight business, because I can learn so much from you. I've already learned a lot. I mean, I'm sitting here like, I'm so glad we have this all on recording so I can go back, record, watch again, like you're talking about, re-listen to what you said and then learn some stuff. I mean, folks, if you're out there hearing what she has to say, obviously she's passionate. Not only is she passionate, but she's a true professional at what she does. She takes it to the level that it takes to be a professional at it. You can't just do something and then expect it to always be the same. And it's always without educating yourself, learning more, trying harder, trying to find new things and new values in whatever you're doing, and trying to adjust the way your vocabulary is, maybe trying to adjust the way your text messages are written out. To cater to how your customers are going to respond, because we don't want open-ended responses. You want basically 1 or 2 answers, right? Or what the answer is going to be. It's one. That's how you break down questions, and she does a great job doing that and explaining that. But man, let's talk about why she is who she is today. Let's talk about all that. Now I have this 5-liner I'm going to ask you. It's 5 questions. The first question is my favorite question. It's your why. I know we all have one. We have a purpose. We have a reason why we do what we do. What's your why, Elise?
Oh man, are these the questions where I was like, "Hey, are you gonna like give me a heads up on these questions?" Are like, "No."
Exactly.
The fruit. I feel like it's such a cliche answer, but also, I mean, it's. I think for me, when I've sort of lived. Everybody goes through this journey if you're a parent, but the moment you become a parent, and for me more specifically. Like this is going to sound strange, but I was adopted at a very young age. So up until I became a mom for the first time not a, like I can say like, but from a physical standpoint, right? Like having another, somebody mirror physically what I look like, because my mom and my parents are white, right? Like they don't look anything like me. So it was the first time as a mom where it wasn't just the realization of, oh my God, this is like a tiny, this is you made like you're responsible, right? That kind of realization, but also just oh man, it's I mean, that's the reason why, like in the moments, especially 2020 was back against the wall for so many of us, challenging us to really get through a lot of things. But through it all, I mean, it's almost this my everything that I do is to make sure that they have a good life. Right. I mean, that's through it all. Like whether it's, I feel like with this industry, it's there can be sometimes like stereotypes and everything like that. As a mom, like even since kind of the beginning, it was people always ask like, oh, how do you travel and leave the girls and this and that, and it was always almost like this thing that's, well, wait a minute, I don't want to. I feel personally that men, for example, wouldn't get asked that question, right? Why are you on a plane? Like, why are you traveling? And it's almost
a great point, Elise.
And it's almost like I'm doing like this, what a parent, right? Who is a parent and like who wants to make sure that their children's lives like are happy and stable and that they live the best life that they can live. Like, I feel that's my responsibility, right? Even above my own sometimes selfish needs. There's been plenty of times, especially where it's like, gosh, selfishly, I wish I could do this, but for the best of for my children, like this is the best thing to do. So that's such a cliche answer, but I'll share with you, like, if you stripped everything away from me and I had to start all over, like, it would be for them, right? When it comes to them, like, I'm never gonna put them in a situation where they don't have a good life. And I've, to my learning experience, I learned my boundaries with that. A couple years ago, I went super hard on the road, right? An excessive amount. I was gone almost for 6 months, and that's something that I won't ever do again. So lesson learned. So you can get caught up in that hustle game. But I think with kind of like going extreme, like 6 months on the road and then 2020 hitting, like, it's put me at this really good balance now. You throw in the David Goggins, Andy Frisella of mental fitness, and just I feel at a pretty good peace, like with everything.
Well, you've had some major growth, and I've been, like I said, I've been following you, and you, when you talk about the cliche answer, is it cliche? No. I know what you mean, though. It's a common answer, but it's not cliche, because I know, based off of everything that we've been talking about so far today and watching your posts and following you, that it's deeper than that. And I know that, and I know that there's not enough time to get that deep. Right? The thing is that what we do for our children, it is for our children. For me, I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have my son, period, hands down. 17, 18 years ago, when I was told I'm pregnant, it changed my life. I had no goals. I was skateboarding every single day. Then I had a little restaurant that I was sort of running with my mom, and I didn't really go there. I would show up whenever I wanted to. I didn't have any purpose. All I had was, hey, I want to get up, go skateboard, have fun with my buddies, smoke a little pot, a little bit of fun. I was young. I was having fun, and it was like, that's all. That was my purpose. That was my why. But then my son came. And then all of a sudden it was deeper. It wasn't just, hey, I want my son to have a good life. I want to show my son how to have a good life. I want my son to see that my father worked his whole life, and he always did everything that he was supposed to do. He was trying to make my life great. He was encouraging me. He was this, he was that, all the things that you're doing, Elise. And your children, as you get older and as they get older, they're going to realize that. Even if now they're like, Mom, why do you have to work all day? Well, years from now, they're going to be like, man, I'm so glad my mom worked all day, because look at how amazing my life has been. Look how much work she did. And then look at now that whenever they start their family, you're going to have and be able to afford the time, because you put it all in now to be able to be part of their family and be more than, their grandmother or whatever they are, right? You're going to be all of that, and you're going to be able to do it with so much more. And then also your kids are going to be so much more encouraged to have you around because of the example that you gave them. So they want their kids to see that example from their grandparent too. So it's a trickle down effect, and you're doing it with such class. And I've been watching, like, I'm seeing you. I see you getting in that shape, working out, doing all those things. Some of those posts you put out are some of the prettiest scenes ever when you're out there by the beach and stuff. I'm so jealous of your running spots, I tell you. But no, you're doing it, and that's great, and that's a great why to have. And if there's anything, you have to have it, and you have one, and you have multiple ones. So you're going to keep it going, and I know you will. And Elise, I appreciate everything that you do for that. So
yes,
thank you.
Definitely honor anybody that's making sure to find a way to help other people master their craft, while at the same time being able to aim their focus into mastering their relationships, right? So when we take the chance to analyze what it is that we've poured ourselves into, whether it's our efforts, our talents, or our time, when we see the fruit come out of our children, when we see the fruit come out of the people that we've invested in, that turns into some sweet, sweet victory that is hard to describe. And I mean, there's so much that you poured out there that I'd like to dive in and pull back out. But for the sake of time, I'm going to try to keep moving on this 5-liner. But there's so much that you do that we need to help make sure that managers and leaders and others are doing. I know what it's like to walk up to a guy who's doing the brownie points, right? He's getting all the activities done, right? The appointments are getting on the board, and then they're not showing up.
Yeah.
Right? They're making all of the connections and they're setting no appointments.
Right.
Or they're setting the appointments and they're confirming the appointments, and how come your closing ratio is off to everybody else's, right? Because everything is based off of an average, and there is a science to this. And so when going up to your guy and saying, okay, look, you're setting all these appointments, what's your confirmation look like? Okay, well, wait a minute, how many phone ups did you have this month? What? This week? What? Let's listen to it. And everybody loves the squirm of turning on the speaker and letting everybody hear this phone call, right? Those are funny moments for everybody in the room except the one that's sitting there like, oh man. And sometimes for managers, it's painful for you to listen to it because you're like, oh gosh, why? How could they say that? Bro, what have I taught you? Right? Because sometimes the mundane action just becomes part of the click. I'm just here to do the task, which isn't necessarily what's going to work inside of sales. Just doing the task doesn't get it done. Understanding the person you're trying to communicate with, how they communicate best, right? We all know that the text message is going to be open more than any other form, but that doesn't mean that it can be completed there. Just because I started the conversation with my best friend or my spouse in one place doesn't mean that's the only place that we have great conversations, right? And a lot of the times we do not fuse together all the elements of communication we have, which right now we're learning that it's important for dealers, salespeople, businesses to have a multifaceted approach to how they complete getting business. I mean, you didn't used to get Baskin Robbins delivered to you, right? Now it can show up at your doorstep, right? So all of these different ways to help make sure your product gets where it is that it needs to get to is happening, but the communication is key. Understanding what's being said, what made the person defensive, what made them lie to you. Well, a key part of our training is do not say something that you know is going to result inside of a lie. Don't ask a question that's going to make them get defensive. Don't watch how you set that up. You have to set it up right. And it's like a superpower because I love it when the guys watch Fred or watch me get ready to go, they talk to the new guy. Watch this happen. Watch what's getting ready to happen. We got watch this customer all of a sudden start nodding their head, right? Only because we know how to have that talk. We've done it once or twice, right? We've seen how this flow goes. And a lot of times that new guy doesn't know until he gets the win why he needed to learn that part of the script, why he needed to shut up, why he needed to pause, and why he didn't need to say so much. Right. Because my biggest struggle is just I say a little bit much, right? But eventually they're like, okay, just shut up and let's go, right? But and that might be a lot of you guys that are watching now, you guys and gals. But I'm asking this because in this business, we get so caught up in trying to be loud about our offer that we forget about what they're looking for. And when we harness the skill of attracting the fish to the bait, right? Understanding what they're even looking for. Why are they even in the net at the moment? Right. And getting them to what they're trying to get resourced to. There's a key skills in just people developing. And so what you do is bring that together. You help people to hear that. You help people to see that for their own business. And I want to know, what is it that got you into this business? What got you in the auto industry itself to become the ninja that you are?
What's crazy? I used to give like the PG version, and it's true. It's not like a false story, but I did grow up around the car business like my whole childhood. My dad was in the car business up until I went to, in high school, I think. So he was in it for probably like 10, 15 years. But it's not, I think for anybody, most people in the car, it's not like they raise and go, oh, I want to go in the car business when I grow up. That's not really a thing. So the way that's the PG version that I always shared, but the PG-13, and I was married for a long time, so I didn't always bring this up, but the PG-13 version is, I was always working 2 or 3 jobs because that's what you do when you don't have a college degree and you're independent and you live in California and you have to support yourself. Right. So I was always working 2 or 3 jobs. Not really. I think at an early, like at that point, like my short attention span started to click in. So college, I did really well in high school, but when junior college rolled around, I only excelled in the stuff that I cared to learn in. Right. So it was this, and then eventually I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was down in San Diego working 2 or 3 jobs. I was on my Starbucks break, and my boyfriend at the time, had just gotten in the car business. So this is when flip phones are like this, and like you like and he's like, hey, text or call me. This is when people talked on the phone comfortably, and so I called him, and and he had just started at a Nissan store, and he had just sold his first truck after like it was his first like real customers first.
Wow.
And he told me what he made, and it was like $1,800 on a used Nissan Titan, and I'm like, wait, repeat that? Like, that's like what I make all month working all 3 of these crazy jobs. Like, so it was kind of a really funny thing because I don't know anybody that's so dedicated to just go, but I was chasing the money at the time. So the next day, I had I took the bus because I didn't have a working car back then. And that's how I got in. I took the bus to a few dealerships, and all the import stores, the Nissan store specifically, told me no. And then I walked into a Ford dealership, and they looked at my Starbucks resume, and they said, all right, we'll give you a shot. So, and then when I sold my first car, I didn't make $1,800, but I made just under 800. And I was hooked at that point.
Done.
It's like,
that is the hook right there. That first deal, you know, and you do, you get the flavor, but 1,800 for your ex's first deal. Wow. What a way to get introduced into the business.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's no big deal. 1,800 bucks.
I mean,
we do it every time.
Hello.
I mean, I was such a nerd about it too, because the dealership I worked at didn't offer any type of quote sales training, right? But they actually had, the store he worked at he had a login to so this is I don't recommend this now, especially because I'm on the other end, but he had a login to Joe Verde, right? So I would use his login because I didn't know anything, and that's a lot of how I learned, like a lot of it was that, and then a combination of learning from the other sales guys out on the pad when you were waiting for ups of how but it really wasn't until, you know, when I met Jerry through Phone Ninjas, that got me from not even like, ew, the phone, like I really don't want to know anything about it. It got me interested in the phone, but it was when I branched out, like, I mean, specific to the phone and everything, when I branched out on my own, and dealers, when they hired me, said, you know, started to say, hey, can we do less classroom, and can you be more in the boiler room, right? Or can you be more hands-on with our salespeople? And as opposed to, so I started to tweak my agendas in that sense. But then I realized, gosh, when I'm live in front of a sales team, you can't mess up. Like if you, and so when I took a script, for example, that I had learned perfectly and it didn't work, and then it made me look, it was like, ooh, that didn't work. Oh God. So figure out how to make it work better. But that's how I got in at a, you know, that was in 2007, which was the last crash that we had. But I think coming from, you know, working, always working, you know, $10 an hour jobs plus tips across 3 ways, like, and then you realize the car business. But what is interesting is there was a point in the car business, and this was probably when I transitioned to internet sales, where I started to realize the separate skill sets a little bit, right? Like when you're with a customer, you know, I started to almost think, when I'm with the customer face to face, like that truly should be the easiest part, because at that point, when you're on internet, like you've done everything up to that point. It's almost just like you're meeting a blind date for the first time face to face, but they wouldn't have met you on a blind date if they didn't
like you.
Right. Yeah.
You said it earlier, you know, you can't ask somebody on a date without breaking the wall down first, right? And it's the same thing with the car business and anything you do. You can't just be like, hey, it's nice to meet you. Want to buy a car? You know, you can't.
Yeah. Well,
it's all about getting to know somebody. They want people buy from people they know, you know, and that's what they want. They want to feel comfortable. They don't want to feel like they're getting ripped off. They want to feel like that you're there for just one purpose, to help them. Can I share
a funny scenario in dating? Like, so now I'm in this strange spot where I'm 36 and I have a short attention span, and I'm obviously very busy, but it was a while ago, but I started to creep on these new things that younger kids are doing, these dating apps that they call, and I was just figuring out how the swipes work and all that. So I figured out how it works. Like, you got to swipe one way. It's like Hot or Not, but like 20 years later, like swipe one way, and then you can DM each other. So it's been this really funny. I don't have the apps anymore. I was like on and off within 72 hours because I was like, this is ridiculous. But you start to realize so many comparisons of like internet lead follow-up to blind online dating. Like one of the examples that I started to realize was, just because I'm DMing with somebody, if I don't like, so I swiped on them because I maybe thought they were attractive, right? So this is like when a customer swipes on you for a lead. But now I'm DMing them. If I just lose interest, I mean, this is so mean of me, but I lose interest, and it's like I've never met this person, I've never spoken to this person. I've had 7 volleys back and forth, but I just lost interest. I decided no. I don't even say goodbye. I just ghost. Right. So that's like, and then I ghost and block, and then that's it. Like, I'm never going to talk to this person again. Or so that's cruel, but that's what your internet leads do to you. Right. If you think about, if there was somebody that asked me over a DM, if I wanted to meet for coffee or whatever, I kind of thought about it for a minute, and I was like, no, that's not really gonna be my jam. But I just didn't even feel like even putting in the effort to respond to that. And I just he asked that, and I just ghosted him after. That's harsh again, but that's like when you set an appointment over text, and if the customer doesn't show, it's no skin off their back. They don't have any, they've never heard your voice. They don't have any personal attachment to you whatsoever. So ghosting is no problem. And that's something that I'm just realizing from both perspectives. The more you can connect right to your customer, then even when it gets down to that appointment, you're going to have that almost semi connection where it's like, oh gosh, I at least got to let Elise know I forgot about, my daughter's gymnastics or whatever. You're going to have that rapport versus just, versus even getting down to setting the appointment, and then the customer just doesn't care about you. They don't, if you're not a personal person, or people don't like you, then you're not going to do well in this business. You want to, once you set the appointment, you want enough of a rapport to where they are going to text or communicate with if something's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
Relationship,
100%.
right? And that's what we're trying to aim at, is getting the relationship, starting a relationship, right? You're talking about dating, right? We're literally talking about a relationship, and connecting to the customer is relational. We have
100% it is.
Be able to find out what's making them tick. And the only reason why they're ever going to share that with you is when they are convinced that you actually care. When they're convinced that you're trying to help them with their problem, and that you're a person that's helping them out. That's why we champion the relationship
over revenue. Over
profits
every time.
Making sure that we are making a real connection to people.
Revenue and profits come. They will. That's something that's a byproduct of doing the right thing over and over and over. It will happen, especially if you're passionate and you're doing it and you're constantly growing and you're evolving, much like Elise is doing every single day. So you have to do that. And if you're doing that, don't worry about the revenue. Don't worry about the profits, because it will happen. But the relationships, without those, none of that happens. Matter of fact, it makes it even that much harder. And, Elise is breaking that down for us in a science, and I absolutely love it. I know that you talked about Jerry earlier, and I know that he was a big influence for you, when you were first making changes and trying to figure out where you're going. And I'm so thankful that you met him, because I think that without him, you wouldn't be where you're at today. Just like I know that without me meeting one of my mentors, Matt Damos, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't, there's so many people I can name along the way. But for you, I got to ask, who's been your greatest mentor? Was it Jerry? I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure you have somebody that was a great mentor for you.
If I had to pinpoint, Jerry taught me from a phone standpoint. It was my first introductory caring about the phone, because even when I was in internet, even when I was in retail, putting phone training on me, I was like, no thanks, I got this, right? So it was Jerry that more specifically to the art and of the phone call sort of brought me into that era. But really kind of looking back, very just early on, Jim Ziegler, hands down. I mean, it's
dog.
Yeah, I mean, this was back in, I want to say 2009. It was my first year at this Honda store in internet sales. And it was when I was first taking my camcorder out and just sort of winging it and doing these videos, because I had always had a niche for making videos. So he had found one of my video emails back then that I had made and put on YouTube to a customer. And I didn't even know at that point. I remember getting this email from him. Facebook wasn't even close to what it was back then. But it was an email from him, and he called me at the store actually, and then he wrote me an email. But he called me at the store, and he explained who he was. I didn't know who. didn't know that that whole realm of like the industry really existed outside of just like the Joe Verde like thing on the computer, like so I didn't realize that. And what was cool about it was he actually I was selling cars at the time, so I wasn't but he paid for me to go to one of his conferences and talk about what I was doing with video, and that really at that point introduced me to Jerry, right, through and it introduced me to this whole side of the industry, and very early on being able to network with dealers. And it was, if you so much of my time hop always pops up, but probably the last year of my retail career, I would always have people mystery shop me. Like that's when I started to realize, okay, this is an interesting spot where I'm at, because salespeople, managers, like would email me at the store, right, at my Honda email address that was on the website, asking for tips on this, doing that. They would mystery shop me, and I had an IP tracker on my CRM, and it would drive me nuts because it's like the way I was getting paid at that time was for customers, like for consumers, right? And, but for that last year and a half of it was almost this transition of doing both, right? I wasn't getting really paid for it, so to speak, but my income was coming from selling cars. But on the side, I was doing webinars when I could for free, right? I was connecting with Jim, and he introduced me to just so many people very early on. The Minnesota Autos Dealers Association, I think, was the first. I got introduced to them through Jim as well. So as a whole, and then just through the last 10 years with Jim, like there's so much, I think, behind the scenes sometimes that we don't necessarily see on social media, whether it's personal or in relation to the car business, of just struggles. And he's always been that person for me that I can go to and know that I'm going to get a straight, sometimes not like, ooh, that stung a little bit, but the good kind of stuff that I like to guide me in the right directions. And he's a cancer survivor, so
Yes.
that was a big thing when that right before COVID was his surgery. So myself and a few of my girlfriends and great friends with Jim and Debbie, like we went out to see him. So he's definitely been just a huge part of where I'm at today. So that's
wow, what an honor, man. I got to throw some claps at that one. Seriously, go alpha dog, man. That's the way you do it, man. You went out and found a diamond in the rough and helped polish it. And I tell you, she's going to be thankful for that forever. Obviously she is. She's just brought you up as her mentor. I mean, I absolutely love that. I'm a huge fan. I love what he's doing, what he's been doing. And I'm so glad that he, the surgery went well, that he's recovering well, and he looks good, man. And he's definitely doing some very positive stuff for you, for everybody out there. He's trying to change this business, much like what we're trying to do with Car Guy Coffee. We're trying to make this business better. So if we can get as many people involved doing that, the better it's going to be, and the better that we can get rid of those commercials like Vroom did for Super Bowl and all that other type of stuff. Because I tell you what, 80% of us out there are exactly what that Vroom commercial was. And that's the saddest part about the car business. And you 80%, shame on you. You need to change it up, because it's going to change. And if you don't change, you're going to start to slowly see that it's not going to work no more. You're going to eventually be like, man, I wish I just did the truth and honesty and did all that stuff in the first place. And you know what? Now that you hear this, you will see that. And I hope that it does change it. And I'm so glad to have people like you out there who are making a change too, Elise. You're amazing. And I'm so glad to have you here. So, Lou.
So thank you for helping us to transition properly this message we're trying to get to people, that it's so important that you forget, focus, and fly, but you get to where it is that you're going by understanding how to accept correction, how to let somebody cut on you a little bit, to primer you, to sand down some of the rough spots, right?
Don't take offense to it. Enjoy it.
That's what your mentors do, right?
Yeah.
But that's also what you do when we sit there and we listen to a phone call. Right? It's so easy for the top dog that has his big numbers up there to have a lot of activities, have a lot of stuff made, and then listen to a phone call and say, well, that one, you actually could have had that, but you flopped that, right? And be like, whatever, man, look at my numbers, right? Look at my numbers, right? The person that doesn't accept correction properly has a hard time growing. right? It is key that you prune something that you want to grow properly. It is in our psyche, it doesn't make sense to cut away so that you have room to grow, right? But that's just how seed time and harvest works. And you allow people to cut on you and to build you. And there's a lot of things that happen in the background, like you said, that nobody knows about. Nobody knows what correction got done. The customer doesn't know that salesperson just resent a text out there because his manager said, "What are you saying to this customer?" You know what I mean? The customer doesn't know that there's a silent little victory for the salesperson that they didn't even know they had when they look back at the text message and they respond and you're like, "Boss, it worked. Look at that. They actually said yes." You know,
right.
They're actually coming in, right? Those little victories. And like you said, the wins are key, whether it's getting a first down or getting 5 yards or getting the touchdown. You celebrate each and every one of them. And that's what helps to make a consistent product flow when the customers can come in, get what it is that they're wanting, right? And every time, nothing makes you feel like in Cheers, right? Go to a place where everybody knows your name, right? So when we get into a spot or we go to our favorite coffee shop and we can just give them the nod, you know which one I want, right? And they just make it up that way. And it's exactly, all the details exactly to the taste that you want.
Right.
That's when you have a relationship with someone, right? That's when you know that you have a true connection that helps you get what you want. And that's what builds long time customer loyalty, is that relationship. Folks, remember, we're a numbers business. So not everybody you're going to talk to is going to close this week. Not everybody you're going to talk to is going to buy today, right? You don't have the capacity to make that kind of business work.
Yeah.
Right? But the people that you build a relationship with too, especially in our world, right? This is a subprime hero sitting right next to me, right? We meet people in one place and maybe they don't leave with a car today. Maybe they don't have all of their elements in place to get that vehicle today. But I still don't want my salesperson to text and call them and find out you bought somewhere else. You mean somebody else found a way to help you?
Yes, and there is a fine line to that, because just on the opposite end, I've seen salespeople go and just like they cross that line almost of like just following up, and then they get the customer on the phone, and they're like, well, what do I do besides just keep asking if they want to buy? Like, what they don't know how to cure, like if it's, because you don't want to lose the deal either by just, if the customer, for example, says, well, this, maybe it was something on their credit, for example, that they need to take care of. We see that all the time. Maybe it was an example. These were always some of my favorite customers, where they came in and they had no score, and it was just because of no established credit, like not even like a jewelry, like the blank, no score, right? And so, and no score and very minimal down, and a lot of banks like just aren't gonna buy that without a cosigner, right? But then what would happen is you continue that relationship. You sort of give them some nuggets, like on what to do, right? Go open up like a jewelry account, make keep it revolving. And then when they come back, they're a 680, and there's a first time buyer program typically for something like that. They did, those were all because a lot of people would run that credit. Oh, there's no score. Oh, all right, next, right? Get them out of here. The next, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Like that's an example where, again, it's an easy way to win those. Those types of customers. And really in the big picture of it, I've always looked at, if you're in any type of sales, car sales, or even to what I do now, I've always looked at it as, you want people to know when they think of like branding in general, right? If it was, for example, I'm selling cars, my mentality was, if somebody, even if it's not right now, but if it's a little thought that pops into their head or a conversation that they hear, or even just a thought, and they're thinking anything about like a new car, possibly a new car, like any just random thoughts throughout the day, I want my name to be associated with that.
Yes.
In the same sense of like with what I do now, I know that some dealers, for their quote BDC or internet processes, like they've had that same way for however many years, right? And it's not something that they want to like change or tweak or anything, right? But I know that they're if you don't want to stay stagnant and you do want to continue to evolve, right, then there will come a time where that light bulb's going to come off and it's like, okay, maybe we since we're making 100 calls and we're not, maybe we need to maybe tweak some things. How I want my name to be thought of, right?
Yes.
And so that's why I'm constantly, people go, wow, you put so much like content out there like all the time that's just like you're like for free. And I'm like, well, here's the thing, like when you can create value for people, even if it's not right now, then you've given them so much good, like just that they remember you, right?
Yes.
Because you've given them so much of like value, like something that when the time comes, you want your name in their brain to be like instincted with like whatever it is that like for your audience. And that's so many like yourself, like that you said, I don't realize sometimes all the people that I'm connected with here, if we haven't sometimes had like a one-on-one communication, but so many of my clients now are relationships. A lot of times the call goes, I've been following you since Honda, right? And I'm like,
all right,
that's a long time. Like you probably, but it's our first time talking. I'm like, wait, you've been following me? It's our first time talking, this whole time. So that's a long time to sort of be, if you think about, it might not seem in the moment because you don't get an immediate sale of like wanting to keep your name out there, but it's long-term that you're going for. Cause now I'll share with you, I mean, I just surpassed my time as doing this under my own name as my whole time in retail, which is kind of a mind-blowing thing for me.
I saw that post you put out the other day about that, actually, and that's amazing.
It's wild to me because it doesn't feel like that at all. It doesn't feel like it at all. I think it's because I'm still so active with, like, I'm in a store still, right? But like it really doesn't feel that way at all. I guess if you looked at it, that's basically like saying my first day in the car business from working at Starbucks to my last day in retail. And that in 2014 and meeting Jim at that point and doing a couple, side conferences and webinars, that progression from the day that I left retail and then everything that I've done the last 7 years after. It's almost like it's allowed my energy, like that same amount in the 7 years, but only to be focused on back end of the house. Cause for the first time in the car, like the first part of the car business, it was for the most part, a lot of the audience that I work with now is BDC specific or internet sales reps. But when I sold cars, the majority of when I sold cars, I was in sales or internet sales. So I wasn't BDC, the majority of it. But the last 7 years, it's kind of been that. I call it back of the house because it doesn't have to be a BDC. If you're a salesperson and you're taking internet leads, then the skills, you have the BDC role until the customer gets there.
Yeah, that's how we run our stores. Our guys, we don't have a BDC. Our guys are phone ninjas, and they kill it. And we literally use phone ninjas. We train them with that. So we've been doing that. They keep their scores at 5. We do our best. We're actually one of the best in the nation when it comes to our group. Our guys always keeping it up there. They're always doing the reviews, and they work really hard on keeping those scores up. Thus is why we do so well. As
much as some people go, I don't like that the coach tells me like this way, but when it clicks with you, when you realize the reason that you might not like that they degrade you on one little thing, but there's a reason for it.
100%. And I see it. Yeah. And it's like you said, they've done all the studies, they've done all that stuff to help us fast track to where we need to get to. And by coaching our guys on that, because it's really just the theory, everything that they're doing, those steps that they have to hit, the greeting, all that stuff that they have to go through in order to get that 5.0 to even confirming the appointment, giving directions, email, all that stuff, that is so crucial to learn. And like people are like, oh, because we have scripts for it, but you don't have to have once you get good at it, your steps, you're going to make sure you hit those. And people are always like, well, what if they go off the script? It's okay. Go off for a moment and come right back. That's all you have to do. You acknowledge their complaint, whatever it is, and then you go right back into where you need to be. And it's wonderful and it works so great. And no, and I love it, and I think that it's key. And I don't get me wrong, I think BDCs are amazing too. There's a lot of great BDCs out there that are just doing some amazing stuff. But we as a store, we're rocking it. Our guys are amazing. They're bilingual, as I call it. They can work the phones and they can work the lot, and they definitely know what's going on, and they try their best. Don't get me wrong, some people are better than others, but overall, our guys all are working to get better at it. And man, that's some amazing stuff right there.
Yeah, it's a skill set and I've that we've sort of talked about, and I've seen some stores to where they run into this problem where they don't feel like their salespeople are doing good, so they hire BDC. But then what they realize is their BDC people end up the same type, like they're doing the same thing that the salespeople were doing, right? So a core part of that is it's not always all right. We got to expense out a BDC. You need to figure out, okay, whether it's my salespeople or we invest in a BDC, like what needs to happen from when the moment the lead comes into the CRM to over here for an appointment. What are all the intricacies before that? Because a lot of times you can spend the money, but you just sort of drag over the expense, and then your BDC fails because you're training the same thing that you taught your salespeople, and it's still not you're not getting the results that you want. Right. So being able I guess like really narrowing down that again, whether it's a salesperson, right? If I've always looked at it too, and this may be just selfishly is because I worked mostly in sales or internet sales and retail. A modern day salesperson should be able to be the Karl Malone and John Stockton, right? On both ends. Like, if you put me out on the floor, I haven't been out on the floor since 2000. So
you would dominate. You would dominate, girl.
I always thought it'd be fun. I was like, every store I go to, I'm like, you know what? Maybe like, what if one of these days I'm just gonna like stay an extra day on like a Saturday and just like take ups and just for fun, just for funsies to see like how it would all pan out. But however you look at it, that's something that I've always loved about the car business. Like it's never especially for someone like me where I get so bored with things so easily. It's never gotten bored for me, right? Nope. Never gotten bored, and I love that about it. It's mind blowing to think, wait a minute, this ended up being like the thing for me, right? The thing for me from when I didn't really know what I wanted to do at a young age, but all the college courses and everything that I never finished college, but the things that I did excel at, it's strange how I realized they're things that I use in the car business, like psychology or video, I did a ton of video classes or Photoshop or things like that, to where, those are all things that I do now.
You're crushing it, and you're doing it with such class. And Elise, man, I'm so excited that you're dropping all this great knowledge for all our viewers. And I know that people need to hear this because it's really important stuff here. It really is.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple. I don't know if I've gotten a couple texts. I haven't read them, but they're popping up on my computer on, hey, I'm listening to the podcast right now. Awesome stuff. So thank you guys again for having me.
well, pulling all that together is just for time. We want to make sure that we do get through this 5-liner. You are dropping so much, and I can't wait for the follow-up and how we do that. But for those of you that are listening, car guys, car gals, and you're taking notes and you're trying to figure out, how this all comes together inside of your business, the keys to making sure that you actually correct the things that are damaging. Just doing the work isn't enough if you're not going to get the fruit out of it. Just because you have the seed in your hand doesn't mean that it's going to get the same result when you plant it on rocks. Okay. You need to make sure that you put it in good, fertile soil in order to get a good harvest. And you've learned a lot of those lessons. You've picked up a lot of that, and you help people get correction now. And the thing is that we in this business, it's so great and addicting to a person who likes people, right? That's why we love the Clubhouse app. We love the human connection. We love talking. We love being in the rooms with people. And the thing that's so valuable is that we always get the chance to learn someone and something. We get to learn something new every day, and we get to learn someone new every day. And that's the fun part of building these relationships. So as we do that and we learn a little bit more about you and all of the great things that you are doing, I kind of want to dig a little bit behind the curtain and try to figure out, as you've gone literally a car gal, coffee gal up in here, from being a barista to being in the car business.
That's it.
Right? What has been your biggest lesson from being the barista into the car business to now being on a Car Guy Coffee podcast? What's been the hardest lesson you had to learn?
Oh, I would say being fully committed as opposed to being interested in something. And I would say and commitment really comes down to, you have to, it's always been this thing that constantly I'm like pulling into my brain a lot when things get tough. When I left retail and I was working with Jerry again. And it got to the point where I mean, even when I left retail, to be honest, I remember I was like, I want to do my own thing, but I was like, oh God, that's a ballsy move. Like, so it got to the point where before I branched out on my own, I said, all right, if this doesn't work out, Elise, what are you going to do? Like, you could go sell car. Like, if this doesn't work out, cause this could fit. And it's like this mind game that you play with yourself for a while. And it got to the point where in my head, I had to sort of get to the spot where it was like, okay, if this fails, then there's no option B.
Yes. There's
no option B, because whatever you're thinking in your head, at least these are the conversations I have with this, it's going to distract you. So, this, if you're going to do this, then it's only option A, hell or high water. Yeah. And then sure enough, 2020 rolled around, and I was probably like, I mean, then, and even before 2020, in all honesty, like I've done, I mean, in the gap of starting on my own, there's been, lawsuit and like all these that squiggly line where you see like entrepreneurship, and it's like the road to success, where it's like all these like it's been like that. And trust me, like that constant, the hardest thing I've had to learn was like, would it be easier sometimes to just go and make 6 figures and sell cars and like live a cush life? Yep. Absolutely. But like it's that commitment. There is no option. There is no, and sticking to that. Right. And I feel as though it's kind of a cool thing, because I feel like it's almost a test sometimes from the universe, like how much, like if you get, because what I found is when you do have your moments of when things come down, and it's just gravity, right? Everything that goes up is going to come down, but
100%.
Your ability to know how to consistently pull yourself up from it, like in it. And that's kind of just the take on that, especially after that I've, is probably the biggest lessons, because there's, especially with last year, there's things that get thrown at you where you're like, what in the world? Like, nobody told me this. Look on page 27 of the book of life. This wasn't in there. So it's in those moments where, when you want to give up on something, because that would be the easy route. Sure. You really have to almost push yourself to not. Right. And because I mean, that's just always been the champion mentality. Like, you don't give up. The struggle is like, sometimes your mind will tell you to give up. Even your body will tell you to give up. But you have to have a core reason of not giving up and staying committed, because otherwise anything else, if you, I've always looked at, I've analyzed quite a bit the difference of being interested in something, which sounds nice, but interested will fail you. When things get inconvenient, you're going to tap out. Commitment is what's going to keep you in the game, even when things get difficult, really difficult. So that would be the biggest lesson through it all. Stay committed.
Commitment is huge.
There's no option B.
I love that. You're speaking to our hearts right now, because we are in the middle of all that type of transition getting ready to happen. We got to not have a plan B, only a plan A, and that's it. And we're going to go for it. And you're speaking extremely to our hearts right now. So thank you for saying those words. And that's something that's really crucial. And I love that. And you're mentoring us, and you don't even realize it right now. So, and those things are important to have. When you only dabble in something, that's all you're going to get out of it, a little dabble. Now, if you jump and you jump in head first, all the way into the deep end, not knowing what's in there, and you just go for it, you're going to get the best results. You're going to have the most fun. Commitment and passion, like Wendy says, that is key right there. No, I love it. You're doing it, and you're going to keep doing it, and you're doing it you're doing it with such vigor and passion. I mean, I see what you're doing. You are doing it. You're all the way out in the West Coast, and I know who you are. You know what I mean? Like, I've been following you. There's people that are important to me that follow you, and they tell me all about you. They're like, oh man, this Elise girl's amazing. And everyone loves you. And that's not because you're fake. It's not because of that. It's because you put real stuff out there. People know who you are, what you're about.
Keep it real.
Yeah. And so your future is so bright. I think that as much as we all know, and we're all young, and you said 36 earlier, that's young, girl. Young. We're all young. I'm 42, loose 39, getting ready to turn 40, so we're all babies still, right? So we have plenty of time to do a lot of amazing things. The goals that we have today will change within 10 years. We will have different goals. We will be different places, but we will always be doing one thing. It's keep growing and keep growing. And you're going to always be looking for that because you have that why. You have those things. You know, we've talked about your why. We've talked about what got you in this business, your mentors. We talked about, you know, the biggest lesson you had to learn. You know, so my final question for you is, what has been your greatest reward from doing this opportunity, from being an entrepreneur, from growing? What has been the greatest reward for you so far?
The greatest reward for me, and it didn't really, the glue sort of, I think, came together a lot in 2020, is it's allowed me to where I have just full belief that the industry that we're in is the greatest industry in the world, because here I am where the odds really are not in my favor if we're going to put it on paper, right? Like I'm female. I'm of a quote minority ethnicity. I'm in the car business, and if you were to put that out on paper, then I shouldn't be able to live a quality life, right? With my daughters, which are my core, which are my reasons, right? But
no doubt,
the greatest reward has been to be able to have a life where I have my time with them. I can, you know, especially with virtual training and all that madness, that transition, but be able to, for the first time last year, you know, because I share was the first time that I haven't had like just hired a nanny or like a maid to do to do all my stuff. Right. I used to be that type of just all in focused on work for the income level and for the hustle level and to provide for my girls. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that quality time, like with my kids. That's going to be most important. If I wasn't here tomorrow, you know, my daughters aren't going to care what's in the bank account, right? They're not going to remember those things. So being able to live a life now where, and I'm just get so teared up because they're just like, they're everything to me, to where I'm able to provide, like, have such an amazing just group of people that I get to work with every day, whether it's on a webcam or whether it's in store, and at the same time, such good humans to where it's like I don't have to sacrifice. I mean, I've done it before, but I don't have to sacrifice what's most important to me, right? Yeah. So that's been kind of the greatest reward, but it's also with growth and everything like that. It's knowing, I mean, it's not any shorter hours by any means, right? It's just a matter of how, knowing that you have the same amount of time as anybody in a day, what you're doing with those, with the 24 hours that you're guaranteed.
Oh, I thought you had 27 hours. I didn't so much as you. I thought you had a few more hours than me every day. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's I get a little, I cheat a little bit though, because so much of what I do is East Coast. So even though I live technically on West Coast, like my body, my brain, so much of the time is just naturally on East Coast time. Yeah.
That's, you know how to do it. I mean, that's a benefit, and you understand that.
Yes.
You know, I'm gonna hit our chest one time, Lou. Come on. Now that was some love. And, you know, I feel you on that, and I love how you have passion for your children like that, and how much you love them, and they know that, and it comes through. And you, I mean, honestly, you had my heart warming up, almost had me tear up for a second. Absolutely love you for that. You know, people feel that, and that's what I'm talking about earlier. The real. It's that real, and you are so real, Elise. Elise Timberlake, and I see him back there, and I know.
We had a good conversation, him and I.
I absolutely, I loved it. You know, I remember when I was younger, and he was with, you know, obviously NSYNC. I used to be like, I don't like JT. Who likes that guy? He's always weird. He blah blah blah. But then he dropped his first album, and I was like, oh, hold on a second. I mean, hold on a second. This dude is for real, and he's been for real ever since. And man, I want to be Mr. Timberlake myself. He's that amazing. But so I call myself Fred Timberlake. But but no, honestly, Elise, you brought honor to the business. You've brought honor to your family. You brought honor to yourself. You brought honor to everyone that you deal with, your mentors, the people you work with, everybody that you're training, and in the teams that you're with. You've brought honor to all of them. You've brought nothing but love and passion. You're showing that right now, and you're being so real and honest, and you're talking from the heart. And there's no doubt that there's more than enough passion from you to pass on. You are doing what you're supposed to do. If you weren't doing what you're supposed to do, and you were underutilizing, you're underachieving, you're doing everything wrong. Now you're doing it and you're sharing it. And I know as you become more of a monster in this business, as you already are, it's just going to be more and more that you're going to pour out to people. Your brew that you have is so contagious. It's so delicious. And I'm so glad I've been drinking it all morning right now.
Everybody's had a good cup of it.
It really has been. And, you bring so much to things. You got Russ Man saying powerful words, Elise. You got, Wendy saying, commitment and passion. Elise, thank you for setting the bar up and rising automotive women, as well as those who continue to fight the good fight. Now, listen, minority, Lou and I are both minorities, so we understand what that's like. Being a woman and a minority in the car business could be even more difficult, but you don't even make it seem like it's an issue. Like when you brought it up, I was like, yeah, she's got a good point there. I didn't even think about that way, because you are not, I don't even think of you like that. I just think of you as
it's like, if I sometimes analyze it, like, well, if I read the headlines, then like that doesn't make any sense, because it's like the deal, like, I've never looked at it that way. Like, even when but sometimes I wonder, like, gosh, Rick Card is the and we're so great friends. He hired me right from my Starbucks resume. I'm like, can you imagine that? Like, being a GM, you have this girl that just took the bus, took the bus to your dealership, and the resume is like Starbucks and waiting tables and a paper route and like all these things, and you give that person and I was the car business for sure had brought out my personality. I mean, when I worked at Starbucks, the personality would come out, but it's funny. It's like early phone skills days. It was a lot of times on the drive-through where I didn't have to look at anybody. And it'd be like after like a venti cup, like we would open up the store and we would just like take a iced vent, like fill it with like 8 shots of espresso and down it. So unhealthy. So I have a high intolerance for caffeine these days. And then, but man, 8 shots of espresso, 4:30 a.m. drive-through on that headset. Like those are some. But
I can imagine, hey, you guys want some coffee? We're good. All right.
Well, they had this, I've always had this like competitive spirit down to like just everything that I do. They had a bean selling contest. I remember this is the only thing that I sold before the car business. And it was if you sold the more pounds of beans that you sold, right? Then, and it was when the fires were taking place, I remember, down in San Diego. Then the more pounds of like Starbucks beans that you sold to customers, then like you won a $25 like Visa gift card like at the end of the month, right?
It was so worth it though, wasn't it?
Boxes. I wish this was like back when your camera phones were like 0.5 megapixel, but just boxes of like, because what you could offer the customer was if they bought a pound of beans and they got a tall cup of coffee free.
Heck yeah.
And then it was like the firefighters and everything. And I was living in San Diego back then. That was my first like fire experience where it was bad. Like, yeah, it was bad. So, but then anything like that's always just kind of been I've always having a fun competitive spirit is really good in this business too.
Absolutely.
Period. Yeah. In life, I think in life, fun, like you put that word and you said it right. Fun, competitive spirit.
Right. It can come off in the wrong way for sure.
All I do is win all the time myself, Elise, and I definitely don't like to lose. But when I do, I take it gracefully. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I definitely don't like to. I like to be on top. So
but no, man. Of losing, we are losing time right now, and we need.
Yeah. I'm going to be headed. I'm going to be hopping onto an in-store here pretty soon. So
I want to throw some honor real quick to the people that have been joining us from beginning to end. I don't know if they've stayed with us the whole way, but thank you so much, Sandy Cerami. Thank you, Jason Grimes, for jumping in here. The wonderful and marvelous Wendy Reeves.
Yes, we honor you, beautiful so people.
Daniel Gomez, who just put a post out talking about, are you interested or you committed? I know that she is brewing your style of coffee since you were saying that you needed some. There you go. Put that inside of your cup. And our friend, the man himself, Mr. Russ
Man. Love that guy.
Thank you for being in here. But we honor that we have so many people that are wanting to partake of Solutionaries that are like you. Thank you for gracing us today. Thank you for encouraging us today. You spoke more life into us than we can describe. And we can't wait to keep this conversation going. We want to make sure that people can get a hold of you wherever it is that they prefer to get a hold of you at, but how you want to do business, right? Like we were talking about. So how is it that people can get a hold of you, and where is it that they need to be paying attention to you most right now?
The most common thing, I mean, gosh, so much. I would say DM, but I'm like, DMs are going to be bad news. So the most common thing, because I have it, is as I just have, if you take my name and .com at EliseKephart.com, there's a lead form, but you can shoot me a message there, and I have those kind of above above a lot of stuff. DMs, it's a mix. It's almost like it's its own job sometimes to go through them.
Yes.
Because there's some people that I've like, wait, are you even like a car business? Like, no, you're just a creep, like, right? Like, so it's like,
oh yeah, you want some Bitcoin?
So I don't even, sometimes people will message me on DMs, and I like immediately, I'm like, hey, can you shoot me a text? Because this isn't normally like my preferred communication on DM. So
yeah, actually that's how we started. I started DMing, and then you're like, here's my number, just text me. Right, I was like, cool, done, easy. I prefer that myself too, so let's go.
So EliseKephart.com. I mean, my cell phone too, it's out there on the World Wide Web, so a text there is gonna come in probably above about the same as for my website form. So is there a way to like put my
absolutely
cell phone on there?
Give me 2 seconds.
It's 805-441-3398.
13398.
It's crazy. I've never changed my phone number since the first phone that I got that my dad co-signed with me on when I was in high school, like at 18. Never changed the phone number. Like it's
That's great. That means you've kept your life pretty clean. Then you haven't had nobody too bad. So you've done pretty good, Elise. Good job. That's rarity, I'm telling you. So we're totally honored to have you here. You go on and you have a great day with your family, your teams, everybody that you're doing, helping, and everything. So I appreciate you. Keep growing, my friend. If you could hold on for just 1 second, once we stop this, I want to just get some more information from you before we go.
Most def.
So you know what time it is, everybody. It's time to take a to-go cup with you. Make sure that you go and encourage the world that you are getting exposed to. I don't care how dark it might get. I don't care how scary it might be. You are being sent into the darkness to bring the light. You are being sent to the problems to bring the solutions. And we have been having so much fun with Elise Kephart doing it today. This is Lou Ramirez, the car guy.
And this is Fredlin Arts, the subprime hero.
And we have been brewing solutions with
Elise Kephart
on the
Timberlake.
On the Car Guy Coffee Podcast. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. If you know somebody that wants to be upshifted and uplifted, go to carguycoffee.com, listen to all the brews that have been in there, and share this live right now so that other people can benefit from the greatness. Again, we thank you for being on the Car Guy Coffee Podcast.
Let's brew. All right. Thank y'all. See ya.